Hey guys, DIY Bree here. I post home design, DIY, thrifting videos, that kind of thing every week to help and inspire others create the space they want to live in. So please subscribe while you're here and we'll get into it. So today I'm going to be sharing several Dollar Tree DIYs that I made this week. Hopefully you can find all these products at your local dollar store. All right, this first item, very eye-catching. I assume when you find it at the store you would gravitate towards it. They're called Tabletop Decor, and they have different shapes. They have more of a hexagon shaped one, more diamond shapes, and then they have another shape like circles, like a spherical one. They're really neat because they're actually made out of metal. They have like a faux finish with black and silver on them, and they vary in color. So I thought these were great as is. They just needed a nicer looking faux finish on them and create a whole piece out of them. I remember making something similar to this with coffee stirrer straws and some wire. So these are really cool that you can get them for $1.25 and it's actually metal. And I want to say this first project I think is going to be unrecognizable as a Dollar Tree DIY. Partially because the base that we're working with is so neat for a dollar store item. But yeah, I think it looks pretty high end, so I'll show you how I did it. So I rummaged through the garage and I found this scrap chunk of wood and a wooden dowel. And I stained them both this early American wood stain color to give them a nice look, and I wanted to distress the wood a little bit and just make it look tired and worn and older than it is. I screwed a hole to fit the wood dowel into the piece of wood, and that took a little while because I didn't have a bit that was the right size, but it's a little messy, which is fine. I kind of filled it up with wood glue and like sawdust to kind of fill it in, left it for a day, and it dried and is working great. So the next step, I did get a little caught up at this point of the project. I had the base and the stand, and I was trying to figure out how I wanted to attach these metal geometric shapes onto it. I ran through a lot of different ideas. I even thought about changing it up. These I featured in a previous video, these little wall pockets. I thought about just attaching these to the wood dowel, adding faux plants in it or something, but I decided to go back to those shapes, and I'm glad I did. I found this hook and chain in my desk. I think it was from a hanging planter kit. I drilled a hole in the top of the wood dowel and kind of screwed that hook in. I was going to add glue, but I decided not to. As you can tell, it can kind of spin, so you have options in movement. So I decided to not glue it. It's secure enough. And then added the chain to the hook, and then I used these like eye hook things that I had also in my drawer from jewelry making. Picked the color that kind of matched the metal tone of the chain and used that to attach them onto the chain. What I like about this is you can play with it, so you can move it around, you can adjust the shapes. And I decided to do 3. Odd numbers look good in design, so I stuck with that. And I decided to just use that same black hexagon. I did go to town distressing it. I went in with a hammer at the bottom. And then I had to address the faux finish on these pieces. So I went in with rub and buff, messed around with different application strategies like using my fingers and then using a brush. And most of the time I preferred the brush because the feathered strokes kind of softened it and made it look a little more natural. So I tried to highlight some of the edges of the metal and soften the faux finish that was already done on the ends, and then went in and sanded off a little bit of that faux finish just to rough it up and make it look more real. And now I have this cool sculptural piece. It's a couple feet tall, so it's kind of a big in stature. You could always add more onto it and create something wider, but this is just kind of the general format I think for this DIY. And what's neat is I just used 3 of the $1.25 sculpture things, and everything else I already had at the house. So very inexpensive, and I think it looks pretty neat. So I found these guys near where they keep the candles and that stuff in the Dollar Tree, And along with these were a couple of metal letterings. So they had this sign that says love, and it's three-dimensional. It's made out of that same metal material, designed for wall decor. So I picked that up, and again, taking a small Dollar Tree item and creating a bigger art piece with it. So I grabbed an old canvas that my daughter had painted on to create a new finish on it. So this like plaster caulking stuff from the Dollar Tree, I just kind of lathered on, moved the product around to kind of coat most of it, played with it until I liked the new finish and texture that it gave, and let it dry for a day. And then, as you can see, I squirted on some paint. There wasn't a whole lot of rhyme and reason to what I was doing, but I wanted some white and some blue and green, so I added those colors and kind of swirled them in to make sure they got into all of the texture that I added. Kind of the only technique that I would say that I used was at the end where I had the greens and blues, I used some of that white, just a little bit on my brush, and kind of dry brushed over it. So at the edges of the texture, it's lightened with a little bit of white paint to kind of add a little more dimension and bring out that texture that I added. So when that was dry, I took that metal lettering, I spray painted it black, placed it on top of the canvas, and thought it was looking really cute. And I just wanted to frame it out with some wood. So again, I had like a 1x2 scraps in the garage, and so I took those, cut it down, and mitered it to create this wood frame that I just glued onto the canvas. Now we have this finished cool little art piece that you can hang on the wall. And again, these were all recycled pieces or scraps, except for the love sign. So make sure you look out for the metal decor they have. All right, the next DIY, I was looking through the back to school section, and they actually have a lot of cool stuff for back to school. They have this avocado print on pencil holders and folders and little baggies and things. So cute stuff. But I saw these locker rugs. So I guess they're designed to put at the bottom of your locker. And I thought these would be fun to make a pillow out of. So the two colors that I found, this mint color and this pink, the same colors from those bubble candles I also found at the dollar store. And that's kind of the direction for the color palette for my daughter's room. So I thought this would be perfect. I just needed two for each pillow, put them pretty faced together, and then sewed along the outside, left a hole to invert it and stuff the pillow in. And then I was kind of lazy, so I just hot glued the end of it. You can always hand sew to fill in that hole. I happened to have pillow inserts that were just the perfect size. They were like little mini pillows from some kid bedding, but you can always use stuffing from an old pillow, batting. My daughter's really excited about them. They're just fun and fuzzy and just really good, fun textural thing for my son too to play with. I love being able to take a cheap product and turn it into a really cool pillow cover. So yeah, these are gonna be a fun, thinking these will be a favorite for my kids. So the next project is another wall art piece that is based off of this rainbow wall art. The one I'm showing here is different than the one that I purchased, I think. Grab it when you see it because you may not be able to find it again for months. All I needed was the shape of it. Decided to use ropes and yarns to create a totally new look. I used that nautical rope that I love from the Dollar Tree. I just hot glued it on. I set up a little station behind our couch. There's an outlet, and laid on the floor while they watched a movie, and took a little time to add in each strip of the rainbow. So the first strip is just that nautical rope straight up. I made sure to leave like long pieces to make it as big as I wanted to. The next piece, I took that rope and then wrapped a colored yarn around it to create this cool, thick new strip of color that went with my color palette, and then just continued that process, being creative. I had some thick orange yarn that I used and some white yarn that I created little knots in to create a new dimension and texture there, and just had fun with it, filling up that whole rainbow. I think by the end of it, it's about 3 feet long, so I love being able to create big scale art with small cheap products like the Dollar Tree. I think I just hot glued a chain to hang it. It's a gold chain from an old necklace that was lying around, so I could mount it on that, and it adds a more elevated decorative look to it when you can see the nice hardware. I hung it and did a little haircut on it. I wanted to keep it really loose and organic, and so it's just kind of uneven and kind of macrame dream catcher vibes, and it takes up this nice space of wall in my daughter's room, and looks really cute and looks, you know, significant and impressive because of the size of it. I used 2 or 3 of those bundles of that nautical rope stuff, and then a bunch of yarn that I just had. Overall, really inexpensive and super cute. So I hope you liked that. Yeah, so that's it for this week, my Dollar Tree DIYs. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this was fun and inspiring in some way, and I hope you guys have a beautiful week. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys. Oh my. Hold on.